I want to introduce to you our next speaker, Arnold Enns. Arnold brings together experience in TV and radio production and his life as a pastor to help Christians communicate the gospel effectively in Latin America. Let's hear this perspective. Arnold.
Thank you, Nick. I lead a large organization called COICOM, which is an association of Christian broadcasters and Christian communicators, pastors, and leaders from all of Latin America. We hold annual congresses, and one of our main focuses is how can we train and how can we equip those that are communicating the gospel in these times. There's an explosive growth of mass communication or mass media in Latin America. Just as an indicator, in 1992 we had less than 1,000 radio stations. Now we have more than 3,000 radio stations, Christian radio stations in Latin America. There was fewer than 500 or 400 Christian television stations in 1992. Now we have over 1,000 plus Christian television stations. Now all of this creates probably a challenge and also an opportunity. And so in the last two congresses that we've held in Latin America, we have done 2 consultations on transformation and how to use mass media to influence or to become agents of transformation. And I want to bring to you this afternoon just a brief snapshot of what that consultation came about and what they discussed and what they identified as some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that we have in Latin America to communicate the gospel. There was 1,200 pastors and leaders that participated in this from 20 different countries, and they grappled with some of these questions that I'm going to present to you. How can we transcend from the mere entertainment to having a real impact in the fulfillment of the Great Commission? What is transformational impact that the mass media is having on the continent? If we were doing X-ray on the Christian mass media in the continent, how would they rate us? What is the impact of the Christian mass media on society when they constantly keep asking for more money? Does the Christian mass media only serve as an extension of the pulpit, or are they really salt and light in the communicational jungle? What is the impact of the new technology or the new digital media and the internet on spreading the gospel? More questions. Is the church using the digital mass media tools only because it's trendy? Or does the church have real purpose in mind when using them? Can we talk about transformation in the Christian mass media when we have not seen many changes in the programming, which is the same as a couple of decades ago? What is the role of the Christian mass media in influencing our governments and their humanist ideologies? And here come some alerts that came out of these questions that we posed ourselves. Some of the alerts are pointing to this. In the Christian mass media, there are very few professionally trained communicators, and that is why they cannot compete with the secular media. We all claim that salvation is number one, and yet very few non-Christians tune into our programming. Another alert. There is a disconnect of the Christian broadcasters with the listeners, and therefore don't know how to present the solutions appropriately. Another alert, there is proliferation of illegal broadcasters. Yes, you heard right. Illegal broadcasters, which have left a negative precedent with our governments. Many licenses have been revoked as a result of this. Another alert, the constant money asking in the mass media has created a low credibility and a society that is increasingly skeptical of the gospel. The Christian mass media is characterized as an extension of the pulpit. Most of the programs in Latin America are preaching programs. Socialist governments are expropriating mass media and shutting them down if they don't conform to their own message. It's a threat. And here are some discussion questions that came out of that. Can our non-Christian audience really tolerate an hour of talking heads on Christian radio and TV? Who are we talking to? Do we really know our postmodern audience? If we don't really know to communicate effectively to our audience on earth, how can we give them directions to heaven? How can we effectively communicate the truth in a politically correct society? What can we do to educate and to equip Christian leaders in effective church media? And more questions, more and more, came about. I just want to summarize some of the results from this consultation that we did as Latin Americans. We have to understand that the world is not our enemy, but our target for evangelism and to be transformed. We are responsible in the use of the media and therefore training also of those that use it. Our Christian mass media has grown in the last 3 decades in quantity, but not quality, and there's still a lot of ground to cover. About 50% of Latin Americans are young people. We need to target that audience with a fresh look at the use of mass media and its implications. We need more presence of Christians in the secular media. We need to provide more training in the mass or in the use of mass media. We need to see other Christian broadcasters not as enemies, but as allies. Christian broadcasters need to come alongside to the socialist governments that are forming in our continent to serve them in the community and to be consistent with the Christian message. There's 2 periods that I can point out in Latin America. The first period is conformed or basically is about not having access to Christian mass media in Latin America. And now we live in the second period. We have access to Latin or to Christian mass media or mass media frequencies, but we have no training. So that is the challenge that is before us for Latin America. To be critical, but not to criticize. To provide solutions and not be part of the problems. Thank you very much.